or something like that, let me know. Okay. All right, so today, guys, we're going to do 11.1, solving quadratic equations, completing the square method. Okay, and that's our goal for today. Before we do that, I want to go over a little bit of a review, just to make sure, especially with me not being here. We want to try our factoring out and see how that goes. Okay, so solve each equation using the square root method or by factoring. So just let's refresh our memories here. Okay, let's go ahead and factor this one. Factors of f and factors of L that add up to our OI term. All right, so let's go ahead and break that down. Factors of f we know are x squared and x squared. What are factors of 7 that add up to 8? 7 and 1, so plus 7 plus 1. You guys okay with that?
Yes.
And then we set each one equal to 0. So if you need to, take x plus 7 equal to 0 and x plus 1 equal to 0 and solve. Or just do opposite sign. We should get, what, negative 7 and negative 1 for our solutions. Okay. Good stuff. Eventually, we're going to find out when we graph these things later down the line, an x and y axis, you'll see that this parabola, which is a U shape, is going to cross at 2 points, and that's going to be negative 7, and that's going to be negative 1 on the x-axis. Okay. So what we're really doing is what's called finding the zeros, finding the x-intercepts. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at number 2. When I take a look at number 2, I've got n squared minus 196 equals 0. Okay. You could try to factor this one, or let's do the square root method. Okay. Yesterday or Monday, we said, hey, the square root method is isolate the n squared, so we're going to add the 196 over. So now we got n squared equals 196. And then we square root both sides. We square root this one, and we square root this one. Now, 196, is that a perfect square, guys? What is the square root of 196? Calculators, mount up. What do you got? What's the square root of 196? Is it a nice, pretty number? Is it a decimal? What is it? That is right. So the square root of 196 is 14. Okay, now if you circle that and put it in my math lab, it's wrong. Why is it wrong? You remember? What did we forget, Kai? Yeah, buddy. Mr. Gotsch, in the video, I said, don't forget the plus or minus. Okay, so don't forget.
I think you said it like 3 times.
The plus or minus sign. Yeah, I do that in all my classes, so you don't forget the plus or minus. Okay. The idea is we could have factored this thing, would have been n plus 14 and n minus 14. I know I'd have 2 solutions that way. So I got to make sure I have my 2 solutions when I use the square method. So include the plus or minus. All right. Any questions with the square root method? That's basically what we learned on Monday. Okay. There's some tougher ones. So number 3, when I take a look at number 3, I've got x squared plus 12x plus 30 equals 0. And can we use the square root method if I have an x term, a middle term? I should see everybody's head going like this, shaking their head. No. Okay, we cannot use the square root method because there's a middle term. Okay, so then I try to factor. So I want to try to find the factors of f and L that add up to my OI. So I got to look at factors of 30, all right? All right, so factors of 30, 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10.
15 or 5 and 3.
5 and 6.
Oh wait, never mind.
Right? Do any of these 6 and 1? 6 and 5, 5 and 6?
No.
Do any of these add up to 12? Any of those guys add up to 12?
No.
None of them add up to 12. So that means it can't be factored. Doesn't mean there's not a solution. It just means we can't use the factor method. Okay? So this is where we dive into, well, Mr. Gotch, what can we use? And we say now that's something that we could eventually complete the square with. Okay? All right, so that's what we're learning today. I'm going to show you I'm going to put you a new tool in your toolbox to solve a quadratic. All right, so as we take a look, it says what happens when you can't solve by square roots or by factoring. We've got to come up with another method, and we call that, again, completing the square. Okay? So completing the square requires a step-by-step process, and we summarize this in a few steps. Step number one for me is I always move the constant, the C value. Okay, and when I'm talking about the C value, I'm talking about if I have a basic quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, the first thing I do is I'll take this C value and I put it to the other side. Okay, so again, if I have ax squared plus bx plus c, this is called the constant. This is what's called your quadratic term. This is your linear term. And this is called your constant. We want to move the constant over. Okay, so in our example 4, I've got x squared plus 4x plus 3 equals 0. I want to move the 3 over to that side. I'm going to subtract 3 over. So now I have x squared plus 4x, leave some room, and that equals -3. So leave a little space here. Okay. So leave a little blank right there. Okay. So now what we're going to do is what's called completing the square. Okay. We're going to take the b value. The b value is the number in front of x. We're going to divide it by 2, and then we're going to square it. So as I take a look, I'm going to take the number in front of x. So in this case, I'm going to take 4. I'm going to take the b, divide by 2, and square it. I'm going to take 4, divide by 2, and square it. And we can do that in our head. What's 4 divided by 2? 2, and then square it. What's 2 squared? 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so we're going to take b over 2, square it, and we're going to add it to both sides. So I'm going to take that b over 2 squared and add it over here, and I'm going to add it over here. Okay? The reason why is, think of an equation, people in class can see me, think of an equation as a scale. You guys know what a scale is, right? Back in day, if you put weight over here, it changes it, right? Try to make it equal. An equation is equal. So we're trying to keep it equal. So if you add 4 pounds over here, whoa, we got to do what over here to make it equal? Add 4 pounds over here, whoa, and now it's equal again, all right? So an equation, if you add 4 pounds over here, whoa, you got to add it over here and vice versa. Okay? So far, so good? All right, so now, let me use a different color. Step number 3, we are going to factor on one side, and we're going to simplify on the other. So let's go ahead and factor this guy. Okay, so we need factors of f and l that add up to our OI term. All right, we know factors of x squared, or x and x. Okay, and then what are factors of 4 that add up to 4? What are factors of 4? 1 and 4, 2 and 2. Which ones add up to 4?
2 and 2.
2 and 2. So x plus 2 and x plus 2. And on this side, we're going to go ahead and simplify. I'm just going to take -3 plus 4 and make that 1.
Simple.
And then last but not least, anytime I have a quantity times itself, like x plus 2 times x plus 2, I'm going to write it like this. So x plus 2 quantity squared, and that equals 1. Okay, so when I factor then, I should get a quantity squared and then equal a number. Okay, well this looks just like what we just did on Monday. This is all set up for the good old square root method. I'm going to square root, bless you, I'm going to square root both sides. So I'm going to square root both sides, and then I'm going to solve. So I should have some quantity equal plus or minus a number. So I square root this quantity squared. I should get x plus 2. And the square root of 1 we know is 1. But Mr. Gotch always says, don't forget the plus or minus. The square root of 1 is 1, but don't forget the plus or minus sign. Okay? And now we want to isolate the x, get the x by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 2. And I get, if you need to write this out, you get 1 minus 2, which is negative 1. And then you also get negative 1 minus 2, which is negative 3. So I get 2 solutions there. Okay, so if we break this down, it's not too bad. I'm going to walk you through this again. Step number 1, move that constant over. There was a 3 here, so we moved it over. Then we took our b divided by 2 and squared it. The number in front of x, this guy right here, 4, divided by 2 squared is 4, so we add it to both sides. We factored the left and simplified the right so that we could square root both sides and solve it. Okay? All right, do you guys have any questions? All right, so let's try this again. We got example 5 here, so let me draw a little squiggle. Try to keep these separated. You got to keep them separated. All right, step number 1. We're going to move that c value. Now, the nice thing about this one is this 12 is already moved to that right side, so this is already set up. So I've got x squared plus 4x, leave some room, and that equals 12. This guy is ready to go. This guy is ready for completing the square. We're going to take that b value, divide by 2, and square it. What's b? What's the number in front of x? What's the number in front of x? Number in front of x? X squared plus 4x, 4. So I'm going to take 4, I'm going to divide it by 2. We know 4 divided by 2 is 2, squared is 4. Whoa. Whoa. I always say whoa on this one. Whoa. If you do it to one side, whoa, you got to do it to the other side. Okay? Again, an equation is a scale. You want to keep it equal. If you add it to one side, whoa, I'm out of tilt here. I want to keep it equal. So I'm going to add 4 over there. Okay? Guys, can you guys close your Chromebooks and cell phones? Let's put those things away. Yeah? But you're okay because you need them. Okay? I don't know what everybody else is doing though. All right, we factor. Teach me how to factor. Teach me how to factor. We just factor this one. Factors of 4 that add up to 4. We know is x plus 2 and x plus 2. Now for me, guys, when I do this, I go right to this quantity squared. I don't write this x plus 2, x plus 2. I always go right to that step. Because it's called completing the square, I should get a quantity squared. If I don't, there's something wrong. And now I get 12 plus 4, which we know is 16. So again, I factored the left, I simplified the right, and I got a quantity squared equal number. And now let's just solve a square root method. Right? So what do? How do I solve for x, y'all? People at home, people in class, what can I do now? Multiply by, nope, don't do that. Good guess though. How do I get rid of the squared? Square root both sides? We okay with that? So we end up with x plus 2 equals, what's the square of 16? 4. Well, Mr. Gotch always says, don't forget the plus or minus. Okay? And then just simplify. Go ahead and subtract the 2 over. Now again, guys, that's 2 answers. So as we take a look, you guys can just do this in your head. What's 4 minus 2? 2. And then what's negative 4 minus 2? Negative 6. Good job, Mariana. Fantastic.
Yay.
2, negative 6. Look at that. This is another tool in our toolbox. Okay. Let's do another one. What do you say? All right, so I know you're like, well, I got this, I can do this. Well, we got some other ones that are a little bit tougher, so let's make sure we talk about some of these. Okay. So number 6 here. Okay. I've got n squared plus 14n equals 10. Move the constant over. Love this one because it's already set up. Leave some room. Okay. I'm going to take the b value, divide by 2 and square it. The b, guys, is the number, in this case, in front of n. So I'm going to take 14, divide by 2 and square it. Okay, what's 14 divided by 2? 7 squared. 49. Whoa! Whoa! If I add it to one side, you got to do it to the other. Right? So if you want to put, I always put blanks on either side just so I don't forget to do it to both sides. So far, so good? All right. Let's factor and simplify. I'll simplify. 10 plus 49 is 59, right?
Your screen turned off.
I know. I didn't even touch this thing, and the screen shuts off. Isn't that crazy? There we go. I didn't even touch it. All right, factor. What are factors of 49 that add up to 14? If you struggle with those factors, look back at what you just squared. Yeah. 7 and 7. So I'm going to write this. I never do this, though, I'll be honest. Because I always know that I'm going to get n plus 7 squared. You should get the same 2 quantities, so just put them together anyways. It saves time and space. You guys got other stuff you need to be doing. You guys okay? All right. You got to square root it. All right, so I get n plus 7. And then try to break this down. 59. Grab your calculators. Is 59 our prime number? Can you break that thing down?
No, you can't.
You can't divide by 3. Can you divide by 7? Can you divide by 17? I'm pretty sure 59 is prime. Can you guys think of any number that's divisible by? Calculators? Can't do 15, I don't think. That'd be 60. 60 is divisible by 15. I don't think it's divisible by 17. I think that's, I'm going to try 17. I'm going to try 19 or 13. Yeah, that thing is prime, baby. All right, so we got the square root of 59. Okay. Before I go any further, what's wrong with this so far, with my work? I'm almost done. What is wrong with my work, though? There's some little tiny thing I forgot. Ding, ding, ding. When you square root both sides, don't forget the plus or minus. If this is a square you can simplify, like the square root of 8, you can simplify, you should. But in this case, I can't. I got one more step. We want to get this n by itself. So we subtract the 7 over. So we get n equals, now the only way you can write this is negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 59. For me, that's totally fine. I actually prefer this. It's less writing and it looks pretty. If my math lab will not accept this, then understand that this is negative 7 plus the square root of 59 and negative 7 minus the square root of 59. We talked about many times that MML can be finicky. So if you're doing your homework and they don't accept the first one, then try the second one. But I would try this one because usually they offer a plus or minus sign there. Okay. All right. 7. Do we need to do 7? No? Yes, yes, no? Let's do one more. Let's do 8 before I lose you. I don't want to lose you. Put you to sleep here. All right. Remember number 3 from the warm-up? We couldn't factor that one. Let's try this one more time using completing the square method. Okay, so you guys help me out. I'm not going to say anything. You guys tell me what to do. What do I do first? Step number 1. All right, Destiny says subtract 30. Boom. I've got x squared plus 12x equals negative 30. Okay. Next. Love it so far. Greg? We're going to get a quantity squared. How do we get that? So look at step number 2. What does step number 2 on the front say? Add the thing to both sides. So we're going to take that b value, divide by 2 and square it. So we have to identify b. What's b? 12. So we're going to take the 12, divide it by 2 and square it. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. And then 6 squared is 36. Whoa. Whoa. Add it to both sides. You add it to one side, you got to add it to the other side, or it's no longer an equation, it's an inequality. We want to keep it an equation. All right. We've added it to both sides like Greg said. Awesome job so far, guys. Destiny, Greg. Now, what do we do? All right. So go ahead and factor, right? Reverse FOIL. So factors of 36 that up to 12 are 6 and 6. So x plus 6, x plus 6. I go right to this step. Like Isabel said. X plus 6 quantity squared. And then negative 30 plus 36 is 6. Awesome. We've got a couple more steps, guys. We're almost done. Square root both sides. This is the square root method. So now we get x plus 6 equals, the square root of 6, guys, is just the square root of 6. There's nothing we can do there. Don't forget the plus or minus. And then my last step, subtract 6. So we get negative 6 plus or minus root 6. Final answer. Okay, you can't combine these. They're unlike terms. Okay, and this is probably how I'd write it. Negative 6 plus or minus root 6. If my math lab doesn't accept that, then that's negative 6 plus root 6, negative 6 minus root 6, but they should take that. Okay, this is nice and pretty, I think. Okay, so that's what happens when it doesn't factor. It means your answers aren't going to be nice and pretty. Okay, it means your answer is going to have a square root in it, or potentially could have an I in it. Okay, it could be imaginary. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, that's your new tool for today, completing the square. Guys, use your notes as a resource, and again, try this out. Okay, try this out on my math lab so you guys know how you're going to be quizzed. Okay, so now you have factoring method, you have the square root method, and now completing the square. And then tomorrow I show you the last method, which is the quadratic formula. And then I got to sing to you. Oh, no. No, bring your earbuds in tomorrow. You don't want to hear me. All right. So if you guys take a look, you guys have homework. Let me stop the recording.